Hi, this is Matthew to talk about another Who album as we go in reverse order. We're at Quadrophenia, which came out in October of 1973. Came out here on the 26th in the UK, and it's on the 29th, which is weird. And just for context, it's October 22nd of 2025, and so they're not quite 50, well, 52 yet. They're close. Interesting how it came out here first and then in the UK a few days after, but in 73, but interesting, yeah. Probably the most ambitious album. It's a concept album / rock opera album. By a guy named Jimmy who sees The Who and really likes The Who and gets into their stuff. But he gets kind of disillusioned. His girlfriend leaves him. He can't get a job. He likes drugs and violence and stuff, and his family don't like that. And he kind of gets estranged from them, and just life and growing up and stuff. Kind of what it's about, basically. Very ambitious. They were having trouble with their manager at this point, and they fired him. They wanted to make this album in their own studio. Well, that didn't work out. They couldn't get stuff. Stuff wasn't ready and there. And so they got Ronnie Lane from the Faces group, that band, the Faces. They borrowed his mobile studio to record the album in, just because they couldn't get a proper studio themselves, unfortunately, at that point. So they went with the easier option, and it was already there. I guess if they needed to move it, as it was a mobile studio, they could move it around. I don't know if they did or where they did it all, but it could be moved. It could be taken places, and so that's what they used to record the album on. Yeah, Keith Moon's drums definitely sound a little different here. I thought it was because it may be because of also the overdubs, which there are many synthesizers and sound effects. I think was it Pete Townsend who went out and recorded like The Beach. And this like a train and different things. There's a BBC newsreader here reading off the news. I assume it's BBC. I assume it's the radio. I'm not positive. It's talking about like stuff happening. It's like, the mods and rockers were, I guess, didn't like each other, and that's going on in the story of this rock opera and things going on. Very interesting. Also, there's quite a few non-album singles from other things that got released around the same-ish period. No, not here. I'm thinking earlier than that. That's next review. But yeah, here we had the singles of 515, The Real Me, and Love, Rain, or Me, all of which I knew from the album and didn't know much else besides those. There was a movie in 79 about this. It's just a regular movie. The music is background to the scenery. It's not being sung by the cast or anything, like Tommy was in 75. The actual album will come later, but they finally made a movie of that in 75. They'd been really trying to make a movie out of that. And it wasn't going anywhere in 73. But it did, of course, come out in 75. And it was an actual proper rock opera, as it were. But this is like a movie with dialogue and everything. The stuff is in the back. In fact, yeah, these are part of a Who performing live at the time. I've spaced on what track it is. Excuse me. Oh, I think it's The Kids Are Alright. That's what it is. I think in the movie it's My Generation he watches, and his parents are less than thrilled about how they look on the performance, but on TV. There's some song fragments that come in and out from different songs throughout it. Sung kind of out by the ocean. He also, this Jimmy guy, he likes Brighton Beach, as he goes back to there because he did a good experience there. And but this was all based on fans of The Who. There was about 6 or so people and different sections were named after different parts of the different characters were kind of after named for the individual band members. It's just the regular album. There was kind of a super deluxe. It had a couple discs of demos. There were no lives from this. I don't know why they didn't put any of those in. I know the England gigs had issues with tapes. They decided to play the tapes like they had on like Won't Get Fooled Again, I think, Baba O'Reilly, I think. And it kind of irritated people. They got irritated themselves for a bit. Roger Daltrey even punched, I think, Townsend maybe. Keith Moon was unfortunately having some drug problems here. He would pass out at gigs. They had to wait for him to come back. They finally sorted everything out. They had to play to click track so they could sound the beat. They could click, 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 or something like a metronome sound they would hear in their ears to keep time with the tape, so they didn't get off. And if the tape was off, and they got off, and it was a mess. But they finally got it sorted out. They came here to the U.S. and it was fine. And they had a few gigs in France that they did. They didn't ever play the whole thing. They did later on in the late 90s or in the 2000s and 2010s. They would play some stuff. They did play some complete sets of this then with like Richard Stark and some of the guys that were in the later Who that we talked about in earlier Reverse albums, in my way of doing it. So that all did happen later. But there were some issues. It would be nice to have had some of the things that worked, to have heard it played live at the time, vintage as it were. But they do not include that here. I'm not aware of any, like, some of the later stuff got issued onto CD and DVDs and things, but I'm not aware of like a Quadrophenia live from the time that got issued that I know of. Unless there may be bootleg releases, I don't know, but that's not, Wikipedia does not cover, they do not mention them that I've seen so far down the article. But yeah, it's kind of a backstory, kind of what was going on with them and things, but yeah, it's probably their most ambitious. It's unfortunate, I guess you could have considered the peak of their career, I guess, because it all started to go downhill after they recorded it, kind of, and after. But yeah, everybody's in good form here. There's great playing by all. Their vocals are great by Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey. In fact, even Keith Moon does a narration of there was one of the gang members. I think his name was Ace. I think. When he goes back to Brighton after everything that's going on with Jimmy finds him. He's a bellboy, and Keith Moon is doing the kind of exaggerated Cockney accented guy. He's now a bellboy, and the song is called Bellboy, I think, if I recall. So that is Keith Moon. I thought it was Entwistle. I think Entwistle is on here somewhere doing some vocals, but I thought it was John Entwistle doing voices, but it was Keith Moon doing the kind of Cockney exaggerated narration of his friend talking to him. It's in like a speaking way, not a singing. He's not singing. He's like talking it out. I don't know if Keith Moon could sing. I don't know, but Entwistle I know can. But I don't know about Keith Moon's ability to sing. I've never heard him sing anything, to my knowledge, so far. We'll go through the tracks, and I should highlight the demo. There's a bunch of the demo disc is interesting. I have not listened to the demo disc, but there's a lot of stuff that did not make the album that are demoed. And apparently everybody recorded their stuff separately for this. In fact, Pete Townshend made demos deliberately sparse and kind of empty so they could be filled in by others. I don't think they did that, but he intended that, that way they could fill in if they needed to, to trace something out if they were as a song progressed. But I don't know that they did. It didn't sound like they did. But so we will go through tracks again from the Wikipedia page. Lots of info. It does give the whole plot of the album. I don't want to give everything away, but it does kind of give the plot. I guess they did put a thing in for the album, which has gotten reissued. Apparently, early on in the lives, they tried to explain to people, and it just took way too much time. I think they dropped that after a couple of gigs. Pretty elaborate stage pieces, I guess, for this live. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what they did in the later performances, what that was like either. We'll go through the tracks, though, for Wikipedia. This was a double album, of course. 2 CDs now. Streaming, it just gives it as one big, long list. It's kind of cool when they do break it down by disc, but not every release seems to do that, at least from Apple Music's point of view. The big box sets do, but like these albums like this just don't, like the regular albums. I just used the regular version. There is a Super Deluxe, but I did not play anything from there. I just didn't feel like hearing demos when I heard this, so I didn't. All Townsend song written by Townsend, except where there's notes, of course. Side 1 has... Oh, this will indicate who's on lead vocals. So we've got number 1, I Am the Sea, is Roger Daltrey. He does most vocals. Some it's him and Pete, but mostly Roger. The Real Me, that's the single, with Roger Daltrey, of course. Quadrophenia, the song, is an instrumental track. There are a couple of those on here. Cut My Hair, that is, Pete Townsend. And on the verses, the chorus is Daltrey. Then we have The Punk and the Godfather. Yeah, Daltrey's on the verses and the chorus, and Pete Townsend's on the bridge. Or the middle 8, whatever you want to call it, the bridge. But the Beatles call it the middle 8. Excuse me, I'm still trying to get over my cold here. And that's the end of that side. And then side... Oh. Here it's called The Punk Meets the Godfather, of that track, but the actual name is The Punk and the Godfather, and we called it The Punk Meets the Godfather. I'm not sure why. I don't remember what Apple Music showed it as. I think the first one. Now side 2... I'm 1, Townsend on lead vocals. Dirty Jobs, Roger Daltrey. A Helpless Dancer, Roger's theme. I think that was somebody else that he knew. Roger Daltrey. Because there's different sections or different band members. It's weird. Kind of interesting thing. Is It In My Head is next. Roger Daltrey and verses, and That Whistle is the choruses. Okay, so he is there. And then I've Had Enough. Daltrey and Townsend both. They trade off, I think, if I recall. Some really good synthesizers on this album. But I guess Pete Townsend had to, or Roger Daltrey had one. He had to go home and do them. A lot of elaborate, like changing out patches and moving stuff around. It took forever. So he had to just do it at home. It was too hard to do in the daytime. It took too long. So he would do them late at night, into the night at his house, which I assume made him very tired the next day, coming in whenever they would do sessions and record and stuff. But it sounds neat, and there's a lot of multi-horn, John Whistle horn parts again, really neat. And I think, was it Daltrey that was doing cello stuff? He did enough to make it where he could play it, I think, and recorded himself doing that. I'm not sure, I forget where it said that was. Then we go to, that's into side 2. So then you would go and put this record away, get out the next one, and on side... Oh, okay, the Kids Are Right intros for My Generation is on track 3. Okay, I thought so. And then you would hear the next record for side 3 would be... here we go. 515, yet another hit, which is a really good song. Daltrey and Townsend on the intro and the coda. Sea and Sand is next. Daltrey and Townsend kind of trade off, if I remember, kind of a trade-off kind of situation. Drown is next. George Daltrey. Bellboy Keith's theme. Yep. Daltrey and Keith Moon. Yeah, he's like the Cockney, talky stuff. So, yeah, there's that. That was the bellboy. Side 4 now is Dr. Jimmy, including John's themes at me for John and Whistle. And Roger Daltrey's on vocals here. And then The Rock instrumental, which is, yeah, that one's pretty cool. Labor Intermediate Pate's theme is Last with Daltrey. And that is the whole side. So, the Super Deluxe in 2011, which, yeah, you get the original album and demos from his his collection. I guess one song didn't get included, but we'll go through the yeah, you had some DVD and Blu-ray editions, and there was a big book with it. But I'm interested in the demos, so we'll go past the album that we already looked at, and I just need the. I want the other stuff. Okay, here's side 4. Alright, great. I just want what comes after. Here we go. Our demo stuff. We have. And they're all Pete Townsend on vocals here because they're his demos. So we have The Real Me, Quadrophenia, 4 overtures. Cut My Hair is next. Film number 1, Get Out and Stay Out. That's obviously one that was not included originally. And then Quadrophenic, 4 Faces. That was not used either. We Close Tonight was not used either. You Came Back, another one that was not used, whatever reason. Get Inside, again, not used. Joker James, yes, as you can see several that were not used at all. So if you want to hear these, go right ahead, and you can. These are all streamable too, so you can go find. Just go to the disc 3, and you'll just play from there, and you'll get them all. Punk is next. I'm One, that was used initially, or it was used. Dirty Jobs again was also used, but that was its demo. Helpless Dancer, that was also used. And the 4th disc, or second disc of demos, has Is It In My Head? I think that was used. Excuse me, I'm having a terrible time right now. I apologize. I'm so much better than I was on last Monday. Anymore, that was not used. I've Had Enough was. Field number 2. I'm not quite sure where that was. That would be interesting to hear. Wizardry. Yeah, Wizardry. Sea and Sand, that was, of course, on the final version. That's the demo for it. Drown again was a final, was on the final, did make the cut. Is It Me was made the final cut. Bellboy, of course, was, but obviously no John and Whistle. It's all Pete, of course. Dr. Jimmy was used, if I remember correctly. Finale of The Rock, that was not. Life Rainer Me, that, of course, that great song. That's his demo. There's the original demo of that if you want to check out what kind of thing it came from. I haven't. I do like that song a lot, though. Yeah. That is a good song. And that is all of those. And yeah, of course, that had all the 5-1 stuff. Which I don't care as much about that. Okay, we've got our personnel for the album is taken from the sleeve notes. So that's kind of cool. I've never seen that mentioned on here before. Drum and whistle, bass guitar, brass and horns and backing vocals, lead vocals on Is It In My Head. Original three lead vocals, all except Quadrophenia, instrumental, Italian, and the rock instrumental. Co-lead vocals on Cut My Hair. Trying to read that 10 times fast. Fun stuff. Keith Moon drums and percussion. Co-lead vocals on Bellboy. Italian, guitars, keyboards, banjo, and Have Had Enough. Cello backing vocals and lead vocals on Cut My Hair, and I won. Co-lead vocals on The Puck and The Godfather, and I've Had Enough. And Sea and Sand. So yeah, lots of trading off of things here. Additional people. John Cura was the newsreader voice on Cut My Hair. That's, yeah. I'm not sure if they made a script. I'm not sure who he is or was. I don't recognize that name. I don't know if he was an actual newsreader. He sounds like one. I don't know if he was, but they did use him here. It really sounds like you're like at somebody's house listening to the radio. It was really nicely done. Chris Dayton was the piano on Dirty Jobs and 515 and Drown. So they brought him in. I think they wanted him to play live, and there was some objection for some reason to them having it. I guess I forget who wanted to be just the four of them and not have anybody else, and that's why they had to do tapes and things. They wanted that live, but I guess they didn't want to look pianos. Who knows what the reason was, but people get in fights over stupid stuff. So to me, that's one of those things that I feel could have been resolved, but probably would have saved some grief and time had they just had people come in and try to maybe not have as many shows but have bigger venues. I don't know, but whatever. They didn't use anybody. And that is it. Nobody else played besides them layering themselves with overdubs, which are things that you put in after you've made the initial track. You go back in and make. That's where the horns go and like sounds and whatever else you want to put in, synthesizers, whatever things. If you need additional percussion stuff, that all gets put in after, which was all separate tape tracks. Now you can just go in digitally and just insert them as it's being played back. You don't have to do some things they had to do with tapes at this point. And also, if you screw up something, you can go back and just fix it and not have another take. That was not then. That's how they did it back then. So, the Hoover's production, Keith Lambert pre-production, executive production, Pete Tatcher pre-production, sound effects and sound effects. Yep, like the beach sounds and all that he put in. Chris Stamp, executive production, not producer but production. Pete Cameron, executive production. Odd way to say that, but that's what it's saying on these notes here. Ron Neverson, engineering, special effects. Ron Focus, mixing continuity and mixing assistance. That's interesting. I wonder what all that involved. As liking things with sound and such and audio, what that means. But Pritton Studio Earphone, I guess that's the guy that told him when to start and what take they were on, I guess. I've never heard that called that before. Rod Huizenhausen, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. Special effects. Graham Hughes, front cover design and photography. It doesn't show what the cover art is on this one. Ethan Russell, art direction and insert photography. Yeah, Ethan Russell, that's his name. John Astley with the remixing of the '96 issue. He did a lot of he's done a lot of remastering for them. So Bob Ludwig, same thing. Both of them have done many of these remastered albums. Richard Evans design and art direction on the 96 reissue and the Super Deluxe in 2011. And that is it. Number 2, I think, here and in the UK. David Bowie album stopped them here, or from in the UK, and I forget what the album was here. I forgot what it said up there. I could go back up and look, I suppose. It was, let me go back up and look. I'm can't remember what kept it off the charts here. The David Bowie album, I don't know the name, but I would probably know things from it. Let me go try to find that up at the top of the article. It'll take me a sec to find that. Let me go try to find that really quick. Trying to go back up where I was here. Let's see, where did that show that? Trying to find that little notation. Here's about the film. The film, if you want, there were some like theater productions of this also. The movie I know is on HBO Max, and I think Tubi, and I want to say Pluto is able to purchase digitally. You probably can find, it's the Criterion Collection, which they do a lot of like classic films and stuff. Make good editions of. You can probably get a good Blu-ray or DVD of that from them, with like a book about different things about it. Lots of good extras. They sound really good. Where is that? And Fish even did a version of it, and Beach Hudson, his partner Rachel Fuller, who was in later stuff. They did a thing. There's a classical version that got put out that they had some involvement in. Trying to find the chart part. Where was that? I was kind of curious to see. Yeah, it was kind of the really last big hurrah, I suppose, but they have kept going, so trying to find. Okay. Yeah, the UK, they had the 515 was a single in the UK. They had a top of the performance of that. I got the 20 in the chart. Love Rain on Me was our single here in the US. And I guess there was an OPEC oil short course back then, so it was hard to find vinyl copies of this. I guess they eventually got that sorted out. Oh, David Bowie's Pinups album kept it off the number 1 spot in the UK. And here, same chart position. First most chart position they've ever had. Oh, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John got them, stopped them from getting number 1. So, yeah, that would be a hard album to beat. I've never heard Pinups. I like David Bowie, but I don't know what's on that one to know. There's lots of good stuff on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I know that for certain. I would have to go look at Pinups and see. I would probably know stuff on it in 73, but by name, no. Probably the track list, I would probably know several songs from it, but those kept it off the chart. 2 British artists kept themselves off the 2 spot in both countries. I don't know who else. I don't know if it number 1 anywhere else, or where it charted elsewhere, but those were the US and UK positions. I'm not sure about Canada and Australia, New Zealand, and other places. But yeah, that's that in a nutshell. Really good album. I would highly recommend it. There's some really nice playing, interesting story, neat sound effects, lots of synthesizers. I love horns. I played trombone, so I'm a big brass horn person. The more the merrier, as they say with horns. I'm a sucker for horns, so you put horns on something, and I'm probably gonna like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, yeah, really good album. There's a few versions of it out there. Movie's pretty good too. I like the movie. British described it for TV in the UK. It was on the Sky Premium channels. I don't think it's been. Those don't ever travel off of Sky, so I don't think it's available any other way. No one else has done it that I know of, audio described, but it was done. If you're blind, there are places to go find that. I'm not going to mention them here, but there are places where they just put up the audio. I'm not going to say where. A lot of them are closed, and I'm not going to make those not happen. So I'm not going to say where they are. So they are out there if you ask the right people and know where to look. But yeah, I don't want to make those go away. So sometimes that's the only way to get some things, especially in some countries if you don't have good access to this stuff. So yeah, great album, good movie. But we can find some lives of some of the later versions of this with the newer members and the remaining members of The Who. I don't know. Let me know if there's any vintage copies, like lives on. If there's any bootlegs out there that someone has made. I don't know. They're not mentioned here, so. But I would like to hear. It'd be fun to hear the vintage live versions of some of it, just to see what it sounded like. Limitations at the time and what was recorded and what wasn't. Yeah, I'd be kind of interested, but I don't know where to find those. Maybe on YouTube also. You might look there. I haven't. Maybe there's some random performances that somebody filmed or audio recorded. Who knows? But yeah, definitely give it a look. It's a good album. It's like an hour, 22 minutes. It's a long album, and my Apple Music kept pausing like 3 or 4 times. I had to keep pushing play again. I don't know what was going on. It does it occasionally on these Who albums. I don't know why, but it was doing it to me. So I think like 4 times I had to like keep pushing the play button. Like, hey, quick! In the middle of a song, it would just stop playing. I'm not sure why, but I have a good connection too. I don't know what was happening. Something wasn't happy. Maybe didn't load all the way. I don't know, but yeah, who knows? But overall, it wasn't doing it to me. Just a couple of random times, it would just decide, "Oh, I'm done," and I'm like, "No, you're not. Keep playing." But yeah, this was a good album, and my favorite album, The Who's Next, is next. It's also way shorter than I remembered it being. I'm going to listen to the album, and then I'm going to go on the Super Deluxe version and find all of the non-album tracks and listen to those, probably. There's a bunch of lives and demos that I won't probably listen to right now, but I want to probably go find the tracks that are not on the album that were kind of singles and stuff, and on other collections. I overviewed that set, but we'll see what the Wikipedia article says. So I may be repeating myself as far as the tracks go, but that's okay. We heard the album. I've heard it several times, but it's out of all the albums besides Tommy, it's the one I've heard the most, I'd say, just because I own it, and I got it on tape years ago from the library in high school and just loved it. I think it was high school. I think so. Yeah, pretty sure. And yeah, I was 8th grade or high school, somewhere in there. I heard it for the first time. Just like, oh wow, this is good. It has so many radio hits on it. Really did well for them. But yeah, that will be next time I do it. Hopefully tomorrow in my time. But upload time, who knows? But I'm probably going to do it tomorrow, the 23rd of October, but we'll see. That's my plan anyway. I don't see why I couldn't. I'll have to dig on like disc like 6 or 7 or something to find the tracks I'm looking for. That'll be fun. Yeah, I'll probably, I don't know which. Yeah, I'll probably just use the 22 version. There's like different. There's that version. There's the Super Deluxe, and then there's a bonus track one with I think some live stuff on it. I might check some of that out and see the lives. I might get a brief listen to see what those are too. We'll see what I feel like doing. There's a bunch of live stuff on the Super Deluxe version that I overviewed. I have to check just briefly check out some of that too. The stuff I like. I might go dig through and see real quick what I've got. But we'll see. That's Quadrophenia, and I think that will do for this one, and I will see you guys in another video.